Hey there, enthusiasts. Welcome back to Hero Talk. Today, it's me, Judge Greg, and the Black Dragon, Vernon Tuitt, as we discuss 2011's Green Lantern. Let's go. Alright, so today we're here to talk about 2011's Green Lantern movie. This movie, I saw this movie at a midnight release.
Mm.
It's the last time I've ever done that because I'm not a youngster anymore, and midnight releases actually totally rock my world the next day when I try to play that
Yeah.
game. And because this was my last midnight release that I saw, but I walked out of the theater after, seeing it in the theater at midnight and getting out, a little after 2.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually walked out saying, like, you know what? I liked it. And I thought to myself, I did like that movie. And then I bought it on Blu-ray, and then I go to watch it again to refresh for this recording. And this movie is a mess. It's a total mess. I don't know if
Uh-huh.
I was just tired or if these last 3 years my taste has matured. But wow, it's not just me, right? Like, this was a mess.
It was a mess. Maybe you have different reasons than I do for why it was a mess, but yeah, it was a mess.
It felt like this movie was written. Well, there's like 7 credits for the screenplay,
Wow.
which tells me that it just kept getting rewrite after rewrite after rewrite.
And yeah, it definitely shows.
Yeah,
I
doesn't
think
it
that
feel that way? Like there are parts that seem like they were significantly cut, and parts that felt like they were just added in, and it kind of felt like, oh, well, let's add this and take this and cut this and move this, and we need a part where they talk about this. So when you walk out of there going like there feels like there was no voice in this movie. It felt like you had 7 guys who had their part they wanted to be in the movie, and it gets so disjointed.
yeah, there were a couple of parts where it was like that doesn't fit with what happened before. In terms of tone,
Oh, the tone
there
is way off. Like just
yeah.
throughout it, like dark, happy, jokey.
Yeah, and I mean, the cast, I guess they kind of did their best.
Yeah, I
But
can't
yeah,
I can't fault the cast for any of this, but it just
well, I can, but I think that I think that a good portion of the cast did their best with what they were given. I definitely think that the leading man had some issues.
I agree. But let's get there. Let's talk about this director, Martin Campbell. Now, the I best know this guy for his round on Casino Royale,
Yes, Casino Royale and
which I loved.
GoldenEye.
Like, I loved Casino Royale. I have a
Mm.
Casino Royale movie poster hanging right here on my wall, and I'm looking at it right now. I love that movie so much.
And not just Casino Royale, which I agree with you
Yeah.
is a great return to Bond, but GoldenEye.
GoldenEye, which a lot of people love. You know what? I still have never seen GoldenEye.
What?
I know, right?
You hang up this call right now and you go watch GoldenEye.
We'll
It's
get to it.
probably
I don't.
really cheesy now,
Yeah, I
but
don't like Pierce Brosnan. I really don't. And I saw like one of his other Bond movies first, and I just didn't like it. And I couldn't help but sit there and think to myself, like, I'm probably not gonna like GoldenEye. So I never saw it.
yeah, then okay. Yeah, steer clear, I guess.
Now Daniel Craig is Bond. I'm a fan, and I liked it, but I try not to hold it against Martin Campbell because I've seen his stuff, so I know that when he's given good material, he can probably work with it. But it just
Yeah.
seems like he did not get good material. And the casting seemed a little off, which brings us to our 2 leads, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. These two had about as much chemistry as a Rock, and I don't know what could have the least amount of chemistry with a Rock.
I'm gonna say this. They had about as much chemistry as George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell.
Yes, they did. It's a callback to a previous episode.
Yeah. I
No, it
I
was
did a good one.
yeah. No, yeah, but you're right though. They didn't. Whenever they're talking to each other, I didn't believe a thing about what was happening. Like, we have this past relationship. No, you don't.
Yeah, no, I didn't believe it either.
Yeah.
I think the problem is number one, the writing, like we said before, and number two, it's Ryan Reynolds. Throughout this movie, I wasn't seeing Hal Jordan. I was seeing Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, he plays. it was a little Van Wilder.
Yeah,
Like the Ring chose Van, and I don't want to
like
see that movie.
well, it's there's some lines that he delivers that it's classic Ryan Reynolds. Like he's got that sarcastic, he's a smart ass,
Yeah. I
and
pledge allegiance
like
to the lantern I got from a dying purple alien.
and that's Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
Like you totally see Ryan Reynolds in that, and it's like that's not what I came to see. Um, and the whole let's get these pants off and fly some planes. I'm like I laughed, but I'm like that's
that's
totally Ryan
it's Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds. That's not Hal Jordan. There was a handful of names getting thrown around, and I don't know how many of these actors were seriously considered. There was a point in time where Bradley Cooper was a strong frontrunner for Hal Jordan.
Ooh.
Now, doesn't that sound infinitely better just when I say that?
How did Ryan Reynolds beat out Bradley Cooper
I don't know. I really don't.
for anything? Not just Greenland,
Right.
for anything.
I agree. I mean, if we're being perfectly honest, like if there's a handful of parts that Ryan Reynolds is better suited for than Brad Cooper, I can't think of them. I'm sure they
And
exist.
and not to say that like Ryan Reynolds is a bad actor. It's
But
just that
Brad
he's
Cooper is
better.
freaking good.
Yes, he
Yeah.
is, and Ryan Reynolds has that atmosphere and that attitude to be the funny guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like it was necessary here. Bradley Cooper can do both. He can do funny, he can do serious, he can do a good mix of both.
Right. And I was a little disappointed. And then Carol Ferris, who now granted I've read the comic books. Not many, I only have so much time, but I've read a smattering of Green Lantern comic books, and Blake Lively did not strike me as a Carol Ferris type. And I'm not even going to go comic book here. Let's just go with who the character is. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to believe she's some Air Force brat who has been around planes her whole life and is a skilled pilot and is taking over this company, and I got none of this from her.
Yeah, no.
I mean, her performance was wooden. When she says, like, I'm trying to learn how to run the company, I don't buy it. She looks like she's still in high school. It doesn't help that her two most famous roles that she's come off of before this movie, she plays a high school student.
What movies are those? Because this is the first I've seen her.
They're not movies. I guess one was. Yeah, she was in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Oh, okay.
And I'm presuming the sequel or sequels to that. I don't know. And she's on some show, Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Which I couldn't tell you a whole lot about it outside of what 25 seconds on their Wikipedia page could tell you.
Yeah, and I'm not really familiar with that show.
I think it's on the WB or it's the CW.
It is. It is, and I've steered clear from that show.
Right, I steer clear from that channel, to be perfectly honest.
Well, the Smallville was good.
Smallville started good.
It was okay, and then it just went downhill.
It's just very brief side note on Smallville. I'm getting superpowers, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. Works for like the first 3 or 4 years of that show. But that show went on for 10 years.
Yep.
If after 10 years you're still like, I'm getting superpowers and I don't know what to do with my life, now you're just a whiner.
Agreed.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the most wasted actor in this entire movie, and that is Mark Strong as Sinestro.
Yes.
He should have been in more scenes. He was phenomenal. He played Sinestro great, quite frankly, and it was like he was in about 5 minutes of the movie.
And it didn't help the again with the writing that he was placed in such a smaller role compared to what was the other guy's name, the other human bad guy. He gets infected with the
Hector Hammond.
Hector Hammond. Yeah.
Why was Hector Hammond in this movie? Let's talk about that. I mean, Peter Sarsgaard was good, but
he was underrated. He wasn't used as well as his range is, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Right. No, I understand. It felt like too many characters were being crammed into this just for the sake of making them what they were. Like, I'm okay with using Hector Hammond, but why are you making him some kind of villain character that gets all deformed and mutated?
Yeah.
I think there's enough for Hal Jordan to fight without that.
Well, yeah. It was a little too much to cram in there, because you've got a potential villain a future villain,
Right.
someone who will be a villain in the future, and then a villain controlling another villain. Because Hector Hammond in this movie is more of a sympathetic character than they give him credit for in the movie, because
You
he
feel
has
bad
no
for him.
control.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with anything that happened to him.
Yeah. And it's not even like he was like an evil person before. It's just the whatchamacallit, the
Yeah,
parallax
the parallax
infection
infection.
brought out, you
Spoilers,
know,
by the way.
the parallax infection brought out some deep-seated feelings against his father. He was never able to add up
Yeah,
to what his father's expectations were and stuff like that. And
yeah.
so, yeah.
His father was kind of a dick.
Kind of, but only because you knew what he was thinking. If that whole
You
telepathic
could
thing,
know what he was thinking, but at the same time, like he comes out and he'll say to his son, like, "Well, I need doers and I need thinkers, and I'd rather have doers. Don't you agree, Hal? My boy here can't go out there and do anything." And he's like right in front of him at a
yeah,
party. So yeah, it was.
yeah,
The way I kind of see a Green Lantern movie working best, and there was an animated movie that sort of did this, is to make Green Lantern work, especially as like an origin story. You need to
mm,
think Training Day, and Hal Jordan is the new recruit,
yeah,
and his senior partner, the guy showing him the ropes, but also turns out to be a bit of a bad guy himself, and is it like even worse than the guys they're going after? Is
yeah.
Mark Strong as Sinestro?
And that would have been perfect. And that's what I was kind of expecting out of a Green Lantern movie where they advertised the Green Lanterns
Right.
as the central thing. Like, this is okay. I haven't read the comic books for Green Lantern. I've actually, you know what? I haven't like gotten into too deep into the lore. But from my understanding, the Green Lantern Corps is a military institution. Once the Ring chooses you and you accept, you are an officer of the Corps.
Right. I look at it
And
more as a police force, but yeah, it's the same thing. Like you are conscripted, and then there you go. Like it's not like, oh, well, now I'll just hang out on my world and just do whatever. Like no, guess what?
yeah,
Ring needs you. You got to go
exactly.
halfway
Like
across the galaxy. Go.
the universe needs the core. If the ring chooses you, you have to go. There's no going back and forth between Earth. Oh, should I accept this responsibility? And oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll get there.
you fast forward through what should have been a couple of weeks of training.
Right. It did feel like his ring training took like maybe the better part of an afternoon.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I felt like there were a bunch of Green Lanterns there, which is what you wanted to see. And then again, like I'm gonna bring up something that's kind of out of left field: the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or the Transformers, either or. The most recent ones, I can think about comparing the Green Lanterns to those two movies. Why? Because they are not the main characters in a
Right.
movie about Green Lantern. It's not just Hal Jordan, it's all of the Green Lantern Corps.
I agree. I think the core thing that you need to keep in mind for any Green Lantern movie is you need to get it off Earth as soon as possible and keep it
Yep.
off Earth and maybe end it on Earth, but you need to get it off Earth and keep it there.
Yeah, because it's not about Earth, it's about the entire galaxy or universe, excuse me, in terms of how they interact with the universe, the Green Lantern Corps.
I agree. But let's just hit some last members of the cast real quick. This was a controversial pick. Angela Bassett as Dr. Amanda Waller. I say controversial because for the kind of people who care about this sort of thing, Angela Bassett is not heavy, and traditionally in the comic books, Dr. Waller is. And that upset people.
I don't care that she's heavy, but she didn't seem like the Amanda Waller that was portrayed in, say, the Justice League cartoon.
Right. She
Or
kind of seemed like she was there and kind of like, hey, here's what we do, Lottie. But she didn't seem like she was this in control. Like Amanda Waller comes in and chews out Batman.
yeah,
She's like, hey, Batman, you're not being Batman enough,
right.
and she gets away with it. And they made that work in the cartoon, and they make that work in the comic book. And
Mm.
here she was just some other doctor who was in the room.
and had no control over anything
Right.
really.
Stuff just kind of happened around her. She had nothing to do with it. But and
Well, and I'm sorry to the fans that didn't get their heavy-set black woman. But Jesus, come on.
just watch Oprah. I'm sorry, Oprah. I love you the way you are.
In her 20-year run.
Yeah, but
Maybe she'll give us a car when she hears this.
maybe she will when she inevitably listens to the Hero Talk podcast.
Well, you
As
know
she
she
does.
does, because everyone does.
Right. We are the most popular podcast named Hero Talk.
Damn right.
All right, one last cast member, the patron saint of great actor, terrible movie. We have Michael Clark Duncan as Kilowog.
May he rest in peace.
He rest in peace. You know, the sad thing is that he actually really wanted to play Kilowog. He's actually a fan of the character from the comic book.
Oh, cool.
So it's just sad that he gets to do it. Like he's in the position where you're like, I'm gonna be Kilowog, and like, oh yeah, you are. And then he's in the movie for 35 seconds.
Did you really count?
No,
I'd say it was less than 5 minutes, but over 35 seconds.
Yeah, it was less than 5 minutes of his time in the movie. I honestly think he maybe came in for less than a day of recording.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have even been like, him training Hal Jordan for half the movie, and then he gets to partner up with Sinestro.
Yeah. So just as a note here, there are some other people who are up for the role of Hal Jordan that would not have been as good, but it's still worth noting. Would be Chris Pine, Sam Worthington, Justin Timberlake, and Brian Austin Green. Now the one thing I'll say for Brian Austin Green, he actually is a fan of the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So while he wasn't really considered, he sort of like started a fan campaign, like, "Hey, get me for this part." So
remind me who that is again.
Brian Austin Green. He was from Beverly Hills 90210, the first one.
Oh, okay. Well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So other people who would have been infinitely better as Carol Ferris would be Ava Green, or Carrie Russell, Diane Kruger. Jennifer Gardner was also considered, but she would not have been better. She would have probably been just as bad. However, Eva Green and Brad Cooper, and now you got a movie that has me interested.
Yeah, the chemistry would be a lot better, and the characterizations would be a lot better.
Hal Jordan needs to be a little bit older, because I'm supposed to believe that this is a guy who joined the Air Force, became a pilot, served his time as a pilot, and is now out as a test pilot. Yet the guy looks like he's 25 years old. Like, that's not enough time to fulfill your military obligation.
And this is, for folks, if you guys are curious, he does have military experience.
I do have military experience. That's why I'm saying, like, I kind of know about how long you got to serve, and it just didn't make sense. But,
yeah, older, more experienced, and a little bit wiser. Yeah. I mean, you don't
basically Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, who else would they pair with, like Blake Lively?
Oh God. Anyway, let's talk about the story. First act. Now, I believe we both saw the extended cut, right?
Yes.
So in the extended cut, we're treated to young Hal Jordan watching his dad die, and an introduction to a young Carol Ferris, and even a young Hector Hammond, which does make more sense later on when it turns out they all knew each other somehow.
Yeah, that was definitely missing from the theatrical release.
What really kind of bothered me about seeing this scene is that it makes the flashback you see later completely redundant.
Yeah, but it makes more sense.
It does make more... You're drawing fewer... I'm familiar with the story, so maybe I sort of had more blanks filled in my head. But I could see how... I mean, it definitely, like... Now you know what happened instead of trying to figure it out from a couple of real quick flashbacks. It also... It kind of sets a timeline for Parallax, because what this does is it sets up for when Parallax gets released. In the original theatrical release, it looks like Parallax is on the rampage for about a week or two. But this kind of establishes like Parallax takes a slow and long methodical time, because now he doesn't escape until back in 1993.
Yeah.
Because he was imprisoned where anybody could apparently just stumble across him and find him.
Yeah, that wasn't hidden very well at all.
Right. Like, they really should have put him, like, in the center of the planet. Maybe behind a door with a lock.
Or if they really wanted to stop him... I mean, no one thought about throwing him into the sun. Like they
Yeah,
figure out later.
yeah, like that really kind of felt like if he's on this big abandoned planet, can't you get all your rings together and just chuck it into the sun, or maybe just take
Which,
him and throw him into the sun? It really felt like they could have done more to secure him so that people didn't just wander across him.
yeah.
And in fact, what I also felt was a little odd is that when you're in like the quote unquote the lost sector and the
Mhm.
ship crash lands, they refer to it as the lost sector. Would they be referring to it as the lost sector?
Maybe it's known galaxy wide as the Lost Sector. I don't know. I think the Green Lantern Corps would have named it something else a little bit more,
Yeah.
I don't know, efficient. Because all of their sectors have numbers.
Except for the one that's lost.
Why is this one lost? Especially if everyone knows where it
Yeah.
is.
I guess maybe it's lost because I don't have a good reason. But Parallax escapes from his very loose, insecure prison. Hal Jordan watches his dad die. Then he gets to grow up. We see that he's in this test pilot thing, a demonstration. I've heard a lot of people complain about this scene, like you would never actually allow your own pilots to go against your drones in order to demonstrate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in the military. Yeah, you totally would do that. That's actually pretty feasible that they would just have their own pilots fly against it.
Yeah, and try to outmaneuver it and see what its limits are.
Right. Ideally, the reason why most defense contractors would do this is so their own pilots don't show up their drone in front of the customer.
Yeah.
So the idea that Hal Jordan goes out there and to win, and we're supposed to get behind him, but I'm in my head having some sense of how this stuff actually works in the real world, going like, wow, that was a dick move. People are going to lose their jobs because of you.
Well, I mean, they were kind of. I understand that was kind of the wrong thing to do, but that is kind of what you're supposed to do. I know that it's a test performance and everything like that, and the pilots are supposed to play along, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're supposed to test its limits and everything like that, and it ended up helping them in the
It
end.
did help them in the end. However, like that's something that you should have found before you displayed it for the end customer. Like this was like your final acceptance test, and
Yeah,
now he's like trying to test their ceiling limits. Like who's been flying against them up until then? Are you telling me Hal
right.
has never flown against these drones before in any of the test runs?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Maybe
when
they
everyone
wanted to
got
save him for
yeah
last.
when everyone got mad at him, I was like, you have a right to be. He was a jerk because that's exactly how they actually do things, and so it would be a real punk move.
Yeah.
So we have Hal, and he's being a jerk, and almost crashes his plane because he has a flashback for no real good reason of his dad dying. I don't know. Didn't that seem a little out of place? Like,
Oh, it seemed a little weird because what does pulling up have to do with his dad's plane malfunctioning?
yeah,
Watching his plane malfunction and watching him die.
yeah. It felt like if you're trying to establish that here's this hot shot pilot
Mm.
who is willing to do all this crazy stuff in order to fly his plane, and he's willing to do crazy things like stall himself out and then shoot these other guys down in midair and use his wingman as bait, and then he has like
Yeah.
this flashback. Like you can't have it both ways. If he does this stuff, then he shouldn't be having flashbacks, or else I have to believe he has flashbacks all the time at his job, and they're losing all
Which
kinds of planes. Like,
which would hinder him from being the best, as they say he
right.
is.
So they probably wouldn't have him do stuff like this.
Yeah. So yeah, it is kind of shoved in there to,
Right.
I guess, show that he's afraid.
I suppose it felt a little forced.
Yeah.
Um, but why not? I don't think you needed that. Like I think it's okay for him to be afraid later on when he realizes, holy crap. But let's get there. Meanwhile, Abin Sur gets confronted by Parallax, who totally sucker punches him. Fortunately, he gets sucker punched right onto the hatch for the escape pod.
Really convenient.
It was super didn't I mean, did you catch that? Did that seem weird to you? They're like, wow, it's a good thing he landed right in that spot.
Right on that spot to get to the escape pod. It's like, wow, that's wow. That I want to see how this ship was designed and everything like that, because that was super super convenient.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, he did not have an inch to spare on any side, and he was boom down the chute. And I mean, would it have been that much harder just to show he landed somewhere and he flew himself to the escape pod,
Or like rolled or something.
rolled, or did something other than, well, it's a good thing I landed here.
And Abensur is a Green Lantern before
Right.
Hal
He's the
Jordan.
Green Lantern of the sector where Earth is, which is 2814.
Mhm.
So he's super injured, and he's in his little escape pod. He was on some giant ship because I guess he was on his way to evacuate another planet.
Yeah.
But on his way there, it turns out the planet all got killed by parallax.
Poor planet.
Poor planet.
They got their souls sucked out.
Yep. Which is a little creepy. I actually kind of like that effect.
Having the soul sucking?
Yeah, the soul sucking. I mean, it has no place in a Green Lantern movie. It's what Shang Tsung should be doing, but I thought it was a cool looking effect.
Your soul is mine.
So Abensur goes to Earth, and he needs to find a new person for the ring, and he crash lands in the middle of the day. Hal Jordan doesn't get there till nightfall.
Mm.
The ring took its sweet time.
Maybe it scoured the whole planet?
I mean, it couldn't have gone that far. Like, they were within driving distance.
Are we questioning logic here? Are we questioning the logic of the all-knowing ring?
I am. At one point, little trivia, I heard that they were very heavily in talks with Brandon Routh to do a small cameo in the scene where the ring's looking for a suitor, just to have the ring like fly by him in Metropolis. Just kind of show
why?
like, oh, nope, not you. I don't know.
Why? I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, I think, why bring Brandon Routh into this?
Why
he's
connect this movie to the Superman Returns movie?
Yeah.
Ugh, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, maybe it went through a bunch of people before it found Hal and brought him to Avensur.
Yeah, brought him to Abensur. Abensur gives him the ring and the lantern. And so Hal Jordan calls his buddy Tom. Tom comes and picks him up. Now, doesn't this seem a little odd? You know, Tom
That
comes and
no one
picks him up.
responds.
Yeah, this entire time, this thing has been crash landed here. And it's not until Tom shows up that the government finally shows up with a couple of helicopters. And it's in the middle of the night. The lights are on in Tom's Jeep. They're like, oh, we gotta go. And they gun it. Like, am I supposed to believe the helicopters did not see the headlights of the car that was literally right next to where they were flying to?
Yes, they would have responded sooner. There would be someone there to see the lights, and there wouldn't just be helicopters. I mean, there are folks who watch the skies for a living that would see this thing crashing down and would immediately send ground and air units to respond to whatever this is.
Yeah, this whole situation only really works if Hal gets picked up like right away.
Yeah.
Because then I could buy that the ring could fly him there faster. But I guess we needed more scenes with Tom in it to try to establish that they were best friends, as evidenced by Tom Kamuku. I've only ever seen it in print, so I apologize if I can't say the Inuit name correctly. He says multiple times, "As your best friend, I'm your best friend." I can't believe.
Yeah, they really beat that into you, huh?
Like, maybe you should show me instead of tell me. It was very what's the word I'm looking for? Awkward. It was very awkward.
Hammy?
Yeah, and hammy. Like, why do you need to play that if he knows you're his best friend? Why would you have to tell him that all the time?
Just telling us, the audience. Do you see, audience? Yeah. They're best friends. Do you see?
Yeah, exposition for its own sake, I don't like. Well, let's continue. We are going way slow through the story. There's more to do. So Hal, he gets home, he gets the lantern, he doesn't know what to do with it. I guess he inadvertently charges it, but before he can get called back to Oa, he gets interrupted by Carol Ferris, and I guess the ring's deal is it doesn't want to take him to Oa in front of people, because it doesn't do it until he's alone.
Yeah.
Which is enough time for him to have a couple drinks, dance with Carol, get upset, go outside, get beat up by a couple of guys. I could see getting beat up by the blue-collar guys, but like the head guy beating him up, he was a supervisor.
Yeah, like, that didn't make much sense.
You're still going to get another job somewhere. You know, it's not like, you're gonna have to hit the unemployment line. Like you're just gonna call Lockheed Martin or something. You still
Well,
need to get your resume up. You can't have assault.
the heat of the moment, it sucks that you lost your job. Maybe you put some drinks in you and
Yeah.
just decided to follow Hal.
So I suppose they just decided maybe they always go there. And that's their after work drink place. In which case, Hal's kind of a jerk for going there in the first place.
Maybe,
But
but
but they're
then
there.
he winds up killing them.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
winds up just about killing. Like they go through brick walls. Like that's dead.
yeah, or severely, like
Right.
barely hanging on to life.
With at least severe internal bleeding.
Yep.
And then now he's get called back to Oa, and now this scene bothers me. He's on Oa, and he gets like the process, and they inject all this information into his head, right?
Mhm.
So Tomar Ray comes to talk to him, and he knows where Tomar Ray's from, and he knows like the population and how many inhabitants are in his quadrant of the galaxy. And he's like, so how do I know all this? Like, oh, you've been given all the information you need to know, and your higher functions were unlocked. And then he looks around and goes like, so where am I right now? What?
And plus the guy already said it.
Yeah.
It's like welcome to Oa,
Right. So he
but he should have that information.
like
So
that
I
information
totally.
should be in his head, and then he asks, "Why is everything green?" I'm like, "Are you telling me that he knows all the different species and the different quadrants of the galaxy, but he hasn't figured out why everything's green? That's not in the ring."
No, you need a tour
Yeah.
guide
Once you establish that you don't need exposition and your character knows everything, you have to stop giving exposition to him.
or have him like think it out or something.
Right. This is where it would be nice if to have instead of Tomar Ray to have Sinestro and have your training day, and maybe have that first act take half the time.
Yeah.
But he apparently shows up just in time for a Green Lantern community meeting because he gets there just about in time to fly in and listen to Sinestro say some random gobbledygook that didn't really mean much of anything, to be perfectly honest.
I mean,
Did you pay attention to his speech?
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
came down to like, we are facing an enemy that we've never faced before, and it's the hardest enemy ever, but we'll win because we're the Green Lantern Corps.
While insulting the new guy at the same time, like
Oh yeah,
not for
well,
no reason.
like, and this new guy showed up, and
Yeah,
and
he's nothing like Ivan
he's not as
Sur.
good as Abin Sur. I haven't met him yet. So then Hal
So
Jordan needs to learn how to work his ring, and he spends what looks to be about 1 to 2 hours learning how to use his ring, and that is it.
pretty much.
Kilowog teaches him a couple things, and then Sinestro comes in and is kind of a dick to him, and then he
Really?
quits very abruptly.
He seriously he spent a couple hours with the ring and he's just like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me? All these aliens and you get to fly and you're just like, it's so much.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I can't do it. And so everyone's like, well, that's okay. You just fly away. You take the ring with you.
Take your time.
We'll wait on you. We in no way want to try to get you to stay on board or get the ring back from you since you've quit.
Yeah, no.
Right. So, at this point, my brain is exploding. Meanwhile, Hector Hammond is now dissecting the body of Abin Sur because his dad, who's a senator, set it up for him.
Yeah.
And he gets so upset about it. Like, oh, I can't believe you got... Like, that kind of felt a little off. Like, listen, you just got to dissect an alien. Just be happy about it. Don't get mad that your dad pulled strings for you. That's why you have a senator dad.
Well, I mean, the fact that he couldn't, he couldn't just live his own life without his dad trying to make him more, or without his dad trying to make him what his dad wants.
I gotcha, but you just got to dissect an alien.
Yeah,
True, you got infected with the yellow fear element Parallax. Or I guess he wasn't a fear element, he was a former Guardian in this movie.
yeah.
But
And is it just me, or is there a parallel between Hammond and Hal?
a little
In that,
bit, yeah.
um,
Like, oh, I'm an Earth person and I've been conscripted for green, and oh, I'm an Earth person and I've been conscripted for yellow.
yeah, like they're not just like happy enough with the fact that, oh, I'm on another planet and I've been selected to be this space cop with all these other cool ass looking
Yeah.
aliens, and oh, I've been, hired to dissect an alien, and this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Forget whoever else is much more qualified for this. I got to do it.
Yeah, they can't be had. I mean, Hal Jordan. Let me just point out something. Hal quit because Sinestro was mean to him. This is a man who went through military training, months-long military training, and Sinestro was mean to him once on one afternoon, and he quit.
So, is the official estimate 1 to 2 hours that
Yeah,
he spent
I
training?
think 1 to 2 hours. Like I don't know how you could possibly assume there was more to it than that.
Yeah, because he came back like the next morning.
Right.
So it's not like he even spent a full day there.
Yeah, he was gone for just overnight. Most of that was travel time.
Yeah.
Uh, it didn't make any sense. It doesn't feel right. But at least we get treated to a couple of scenes of Hector Hammond learning how to use his powers, and Hal Jordan gets to go to a party because I guess they figured out that contract anyway.
Yeah, so that renders the first scene kind of pointless.
Right, completely pointless. But we do finally get a chance to see Hal Jordan use his powers on Earth. Hector takes out his dad's helicopter because Hector's apparently just willing to do patricide just on a whim now that he's been infected.
Yep.
And the helicopter, like, it crashes down, it flies through a crowded gala of people, doesn't hit a single person on the way through, and is flying directly at Carol Ferris, who can't seem to get out of the way, like literally every other person at this party has done. Literally, everyone else has gotten out of the way.
Yep. Their helicopter dodging skills were at max.
Yeah.
They used all their experience points.
And so he creates this, because he's going to do a construct. Oh, I'm going to be Green Lantern now. And
Yeah.
instead of like doing something like creating a boxing glove to catch the helicopter, he puts it on a car and he sends it on this giant funky track, still flying around. Like, why don't you stop the helicopter instead of sending it on the go-kart track? Like, it felt like product placement. It felt like there was some Hot Wheels tie-in.
we need to keep the kids awake.
Right. I mean, doesn't that feel like oh, we have this Hot Wheels Green Lantern car set, so you need to somehow put a car track in this movie?
That's perfect. I hadn't thought of that. And you know what? I actually like the car and the track and everything like that. Kind of, Hal style in terms of showboating and stuff like that in this movie.
I kind of wanted to throw back to the comic book and just a giant catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
Because that's something they did in all the time, but it was a little awkward scene. It does lead to one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is where Hal suits up in front of his buddy Tom the first time, and Tom's reaction is just, "Whoa, Green!" Legitimately funny scene.
One of a few.
One of the very few. But then it also leads to this very awkward part, like Hal and Carol are like, they're talking about, his new powers.
Yeah.
And he just kind of says, "Oh, well, I quit." And it feels like she just went like, "Oh, then take me home, and now I'm going to go cry that you quit the Green Lantern Corps." Like, why does she care so much?
Because it's symbolism. Because he quits everything. He quit their relationship. He quits at life and stuff like that. And she just wants him to care about something.
Stretch.
Anything to try to make this make sense. But I will point out something that I think it's my I think I'm going to answer this question a little bit early, but my favorite part of this movie is her recognizing him through the mask.
That's true. That's at least one part that made sense given the whole lore of the Green Lantern. Like, you're wearing a domino mask. I know who you are.
Well, not just that, but like we're in a day and age where unless you're wearing like a full-on mask, those little strips don't do a damn thing. A pair of glasses doesn't, hide your true identity. Just like a little sleeping mask with eye holes cut into it for Green Lantern is not gonna fool someone who's, like she says, like, we grew up together. I've seen you naked. There's no way that I wouldn't recognize you up close.
Yeah, it's a good point. Speaking of the mask, long as we're on it, what did you think of it?
I
The whole mask
I
and suit
was
thing.
The suit was fine. I heard that it had to be edited. They had to redo it because the fan reaction was overwhelmingly negative. I like what they came out with. I like the final product. The mask I could do without.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the mask. Maybe that should have been actually a physical thing
Yeah,
because when the mask is on and he's looking around, it feels like CG.
yeah,
I mean, the suit looks good. I mean, the thing about the CG for the suit is it works because the CG doesn't quite feel like it's really there.
yeah.
But given that it's really just his ring, the suit should feel like it's really there. So it's a good effect. But it didn't work great on the face because I don't know what they did differently for the face, but it just didn't work great.
Yeah, maybe more of a practical touch might have worked. Maybe like you said, an actual mask with a few digital effects.
Yeah, maybe that would have probably worked a little bit better.
Yeah.
But we are. I don't remember which of these two scenes comes next, but these are two key scenes we need to discuss.
Okay.
There is a Green Lantern battle with Hector Hammond in the dissection lab,
Hmm.
where Hector finally does manage to kill his father. Almost Amanda Waller. The Green
Yep.
Lantern saves her. And then Hector rocks Green Lantern's world. Here he is wearing the power ring, most powerful weapon in the universe. And he gets hit in the back with an oxygen tank. And that took him out.
I gotta defend him here. He's still a rookie.
But come on.
He's still a rookie, okay? He's
Yeah.
still learning to use his powers and getting used to it and everything like that. And you'd go down with an oxygen tank hit in the back,
Well, I'm
you
not a
know?
Green Lantern.
It's not, I'm not saying that, he's supposed to just like shrug it off, but yeah, he can take a couple of hits and be knocked down. That's fine. I just want him to get back up eventually.
But it seemed like it took him an awful long time to get back up.
He was being held down
Maybe.
by
Yeah, I
mental
guess I'll give you that.
abilities.
Yeah, there's a scene where so Hector's like touching him to read his mind, but then Hal like works so hard to bring the ring to his head. Don't know why he was specifically trying to touch the ring to his head.
Yeah.
Instead of just being close, he definitely wanted to touch it. And all that really did to serve is to provoke Parallax, who decided,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, to create a link between them.
yeah. Because Parallax, he seemed like he was aware of him the first time he got infected, but this is when he really stopped, like, huh, you're wearing Abin Sur's ring. I'm going to stop what I'm doing and go find you. I could have
Yeah.
just trailed Abin Sur the first time, but I'm easily distracted. As
was
evidenced by, I'm on my way to Oa to kill all the Green Lanterns. Well, wait, there's one Green Lantern here? I'm going to stop. I'm going to go get this one Green Lantern. Then I'm going to go to Oa and kill all the Green Lanterns.
Yeah, because then I'll be powerful enough once I've devoured this whole planet to go and take care of Oa.
So, meanwhile on Oa, they're all like, oh, cool, he's headed towards Earth. We got some time.
Right? What dicks?
And Sinestro comes up with, I would like to meet the person who wrote this scene and thought it worked. Hey, we sent our best lanterns to stop the guy who's fear.
Did they really? Did they really though?
I
Did
don't think they really
send
did.
All of their
Like,
best
I don't think they
lanterns?
sent their best lanterns. They sent their most expendable lanterns.
They sent a squadron
Yeah.
of 12 to 15.
Yeah,
They know that this enemy is something that they haven't personally faced before. Why wouldn't they send more?
yeah. Like, or if we're sending our best warriors, why wasn't Sinestro leading them?
He was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he took off.
Yeah, he was there, but like he and a few others survived.
Yeah, he
And
went like, no.
Kilowog was there too.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see Kilowog.
yeah, Kilowog and Sinestro were both there. But yeah, like this is Unicron we're talking about. This is a thing that eats planets.
Yeah,
You
we'll send
don't
a couple
just send-
dozen guys.
Just to send a dozen. That's fine. Send my strongest lanterns my ass.
Yeah, how about you send all of them?
Seriously.
So here's his plan. That he finally learns. Hey, Parallax was one of the Guardians. We tried to harness the power of Yellow Fear. It didn't work out. When he tried to harness it, it took him over. So now he's Fear. And Sinestro's plan is, well, it's obvious what we need to do. We'll harness the power of Yellow Fear.
Well, Well,
Like,
in a
wasn't that
different way.
exactly what the last guy did? Like,
In a different way. Like, we won't step right into it.
yeah,
We'll make a ring out of
we'll
it.
just make a ring out of it. And he's like, yeah, so I'll learn how to use this ring, and then I'll teach everyone else, and then we'll have yellow, and we'll fight yellow with yellow. And all the Guardians seem to think, huh, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
That's a phenomenally good idea. It's not till Hal Jordan stops and says, as he rightfully should have been thinking, like, how could you have possibly thought that was a good idea? It's the same thing Parallax did, and it took
Yeah.
him over. And now you want to do it again. Because you think if you just try it again, you won't just create another evil person who's consumed with fear.
Yeah, hey,
I
maybe the second time's the charm.
There really needed to be more thought as to why they would make a yellow ring. It seems like the yellow ring should have already been made, perhaps. And then maybe they could say, we made the ring, but Parallax lacked the will, and that way Sinestro can be like, well, hey, I got plenty of will.
Right. That would actually make
Yeah.
a lot more sense. Like, when the Guardians tried to harness the fear, they also created a ring to infuse to the Guardian that wanted to step into the
Yeah.
fear. Yeah, that actually makes a lot more
But
sense.
he couldn't handle it, and then Sinestro would be like, well, I'm top dog around here. I can
And we locked the ring away. Yeah.
Yeah, you give me the ring, I can go take this guy with his own stuff and will work on me. But whatever. So Hal Jordan then, at this point, says, in that case, let me go back and defend Earth. And I sit there and think to myself, you were just on Earth. Like,
And why is he asking permission?
yeah, why are you even asking permission? You quit. You were already on Earth and you quit. They weren't expecting you back. You could have just stayed on Earth and defended Earth. You didn't need to make this unnecessary trip.
Well, he initially he was asking for help, which I understand. Please help me save my world. Send an army to save my world. We're worth it. But then he's like, well, then let me save my world. And I'm like, okay.
They've
well,
clearly demonstrated they don't care if you just go
They
off
don't
willy-nilly
care.
with your ring.
and they don't care about your world. They made it clear that while Earth is destroyed, we have time to regroup. So time to go.
Yeah, why not? They were perfectly content with you going back to your world alone and dying there anyway. That's how this whole conversation began. It all started with sucks to be Earth.
Yeah.
But Hal does decide to go back. However, he gets interrupted because Hector Hammond, on request from Parallax, because apparently Parallax needs help with the one junior Green Lantern, even though he's killed a bunch already. And it's another very weird scene that felt like it was added in just to give Hector Hammond more stuff to do. He's got Carol Ferris, and he's going to inject her with the same stuff that's in him, so they would both be weirdo people together.
No.
So Hal goes like, well, what about you just have the ring? So he gives the ring to Hector. Hector takes it, shoots a couple of things, then tries to shoot Hal, and Hal's like, no, I control the ring. Which then led me to believe, so you shot all that stuff, Hal? You know what you could have done, Hal, is when he left his guard down and put on the ring, just had the ring create something and punch him in the face.
Actually,
yeah.
I thought that Hector Hammond was just shooting beams and stuff like that, and Hal reflected the energy because he was the chosen one to use the ring. I didn't realize that you could control the ring's power even when you didn't have it on.
I don't think you're supposed to be able to.
But it chose him, and he was in close proximity.
I guess he was in close enough proximity, but then... No, now here's something that didn't make sense and doesn't hold up to how the ring tends to work in the comic book. Mm-hmm. Is Parallax interrupts this whole ordeal.
Yeah.
And, decides, I don't like Hector Hammond, I'm going to take your soul. Even though I was really all about taking that Green Lantern soul, I'm going to let him off for a second. Just take your soul. Again, I am Parallax, I am the entity of fear, and I'm easily distracted.
Oa, Earth. Earth, Oa.
Yeah. Oa,
go to Earth.
Earth, Green Lantern, Hector. That's his train of thought. That's what it's like to be Parallax.
So he takes out Hector Hammond.
He takes out Hector. He goes for Hal. Hal's trying to get his ring off Hector. Now, in the comic books, whenever a Green Lantern's in close proximity to his ring, he can kind of call it over to him.
Yeah, he can summon it.
Apparently that is not the case here. He can have the ring in close proximity to him shoot stuff, but not come to him. Even though we've seen the ring is able to fly around on its own. It's how it found him.
Yeah.
But
It's how it found him. It's how it got him to Oa.
yeah. However, in this case, it didn't. So we have this scene, which I guess to make Carol Ferris seem like she was more than just the girl.
So she did something.
Yeah, like, oh, she did something. Like, if you guys wanted her to do something, you really should have figured something out before now. You should have written that into the script long before we get to this scene where she's doing something that technically she shouldn't need to do.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? We're really pressed for time, and just something will do.
Just have her shoot a missile thing at the guy. So she shoots a missile at Parallax, which took him back. I'm surprised. The thing about all the stuff they do to Parallax is they used like some regular missiles, an exploding tanker, and all that stuff seemed to hurt him.
Yeah.
So on all these planets he's been taking over and swallowing all their souls, did they not have missiles?
Or some kind of defense?
Or any defense mechanisms? Was he just going to like all these like how was he expecting to take out the Green Lanterns?
I don't know. Maybe he was right to be distracted towards Earth.
Yeah.
And then Hal Jordan and then Hector Hammond. Maybe he was right to be distracted because I don't think there's any way he'd be able to take out the Green Lantern Corps unless they try to employ a series of nets to trap him next time again.
Yeah, like the nets were obviously a bad call, but clearly just general explosions, the likes of which any standard Earth ordnance can produce, bothers him.
Yeah, so she fires rockets, it hurts him, and I guess that delays him long enough for her to get the ring for him?
Yeah, it delays her long enough to get the ring for Hal. Hal puts on the ring. They take the fight outside. We see a couple of constructs, because I guess Hal hasn't made enough for the movie yet, so they had to write some in. He saves a couple of people, even though what it looks like thousands of people are getting their souls sucked right now.
Yeah.
But he saves like some children and an older lady, so we feel good about that.
Well, yeah, the children are our future.
Yeah, sure they are.
So he saves the children.
And then he creates this one shield to stop Parallax from coming at him, and Parallax just starts taunting him like a punk. And Hal kind of says, I get they want to have a nice scene where he can say the oath in a dramatic way. This did not feel like that scene.
What?
Like Hal says the oath to himself while Parallax is like taunting him and pushing him and like, oh, I will destroy your family and eat your children, and it just felt like I was distracted by what Parallax is saying. That like I'm wondering like why Hal is just sitting there saying the oath. Like at this point, like just fly, Hal. The oath isn't doing you any good right now.
I mean, he was pretty much surrounded, and he was getting crushed. So he had to believe in himself in order to make the ring work to its full potential.
Whatever.
Am I stretching more?
You're stretching a little bit more. You are giving too much credit to the movie.
Okay.
But he does finally fly off Earth, and we have a space battle. Like a real space battle, which was awesome.
Really?
I liked it. I think I liked they were finally off Earth. I kind of like what was going on. I'm going to take him through this asteroid field to slow him down. We're going to get close to the sun. I thought it was a little weird that he had to say the line, the bigger you are, the faster you burn, or something like that. Like,
yeah, let the audience remember.
Yeah, let me remember. Don't have him say it like I'm some kind of idiot.
The rest of the movie was treating you like an idiot. Why stop now?
Yeah, I guess why stop now? But, I mean, it's a neat idea when he thinks like, if I can get this guy mad enough, he'll chase me next to a sun, which I'm sure nobody's tried yet. Because, right? I mean, isn't the whole point of being Hal Jordan is you do stupid stuff that people haven't thought of?
Exactly.
So I think it worked for, hey, I bet nobody's been dumb enough to try to fly next to a sun when they've been dealing with this guy. Why would you do that? You'd get sucked into the sun too.
Yeah.
So he does it, and he even creates a construct to keep him from flying into the sun just long enough to punch Parallax into the sun. And I was actually a fan of that. I thought that was a fun scene. It was fun. We finally get some flying through space and some space shooting and like space lanterning, and that's what I wanted to see this whole movie. And I didn't get to see it until the final sequence.
And that was why it was so disappointing to me. It's like this should be like a bunch of Green Lanterns coming together.
Yeah, there should have been much more of this type of thing. Yeah. But it was a neat scene. it at least was a callback to this is why Hal Jordan is the guy who gets to beat Parallax, because he's the kind of guy who's like, I'm just going to fly close to the sun. Why wouldn't I? I'll probably die. Whatever.
And then what really kind of, I saw this
Hmm.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was in 3D, which the 3D sucked.
No, I did not see it. I can't
Um,
see things in 3D. I get headaches.
yeah, when I got older, I started getting sick too.
Hmm.
So The Hobbit really got me. But at any rate, yeah. So I saw this in 3D in the theaters when it came out, and then I saw it again. Actually, I watched it right before I got on this call, and what really pissed me off now, as opposed to when I saw it in the theaters, was that okay, they sent a little over a dozen people, Green Lanterns, to fight Parallax on this unknown planet. They cast a big net over it, thinking that'll work.
Of course.
And Hal Jordan, keep in mind, humans are the center of the universe in every story, form of lore. Earth is just the center of everything. Humans can do anything, beat anything. Everyone looks to us for solutions, pretty much. So Hal Jordan beats Parallax, and then 3 Green Lanterns show up. Do you know how much of a slap in the face that is?
See, I kind of had the impression that these were three guys who were like kind of got together and they're like, you know what? I like that Hal Jordan. He's got moxie.
Three
So
for an
three of them.
entire planet.
Right. Well, they were the guys who were previously established.
Ugh,
I know.
This is an enemy that has proven to be a match for more than a dozen Green Lanterns. You don't think the entire Corps, even if Hal Jordan failed and he was killed, he had his soul sucked, you would think that they would bring more Green Lanterns if they were gonna check up on Hal and say, "Hey, Hal, how you doing? Oh shit, he's dead. Um, let's get him, guys. That way you have the army behind you. When you're going to Earth and realize that Hal is no more." So they just sent 3 guys to what? Spectate?
I don't think they were sent. I think these three guys did it, pulled a Hal Jordan. They're like, well, nobody seems to be really paying attention to where we go or what we do, so let's go to Earth and see if Hal needs help.
Ugh. It's just they show up at the end.
Yeah, they just show up at
And
the end to save him from getting burned up in the sun.
so, ugh.
Yeah. So now he's accepted, and then all the reindeer loved him as they shouted out in glee.
So they recycled footage from the first
Yeah,
speech.
the first speech gets recycled, and
He
now he's like,
raises his
"Oh,
arms.
now we like you, Hal Jordan, and everyone's happy, and we are the core, and there you go, there's your movie." Except you get a stinger, because it turns out Sinestro thought to himself, "You know what I learned from this whole ordeal? I think you should
Absolutely
screw
nothing.
with the yellow power of fear. I didn't learn anything. I think that's still a good idea."
He learned absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and he pops in and he puts on the ring and he's bada bing. Then he turns into his comic accurate, actually, Sinestro Corps costume,
Yeah.
and now he's like, "Ha! Now I'm a bad guy for the sequel."
Sequel, maybe?
And we're all in the audience going like, "I ain't gonna be no sequel."
No, thank you. But yeah, this like we said at the beginning, this movie was a mess. There's no sequel coming out of this.
Yeah, it was disjointed. In fact, I think this movie was so bad that if they ever try to do a Green Lantern property again, they can't even use Hal Jordan. You just got to go to one of the other Green Lanterns.
I vote John Stewart.
I also vote John Stewart.
So, in terms of ratings for this,
And
what would you give it?
I would give this movie 2 dying purple aliens out of 5.
Fantastic. I'm going to also go out of 5, but I'm going to do 2 lanterns out of 5.
Wow, you really broke some new ground there, didn't you?
Didn't I?
Yeah. Now, you know what we skipped? What was your favorite part?
Oh, I think I mentioned it before, and I think I skipped ahead.
Oh yeah, you did. It was Carol
But
Ferris recognized him with his mask.
Recognized him with his mask on.
My favorite part was final space flight battle.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing on Earth was good. That was all crap. The second they left Earth and they were like out just in the solar system flying around, loved that. Loved that whole sequence right up until the end.
very good sequence.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So not even the entire final battle, but the second half of the final battle, because the first half
Where
of it
it's
was awful.
Yeah, machine guns and catapults.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Oh, so dumb. And that was Green Lantern. Thanks for joining us, enthusiasts, and we hope to see you next time on the next Hero Talk.